Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Deborah Young from the RegTech Association, and welcome to today's edition of RegTech Matters. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today and pay my respects to elders past and present, and also offer a warm welcome to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander friends with us here today. Thank you very much for being with us. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get underway. If you haven't already seen the slide, please turn your cameras and mics off. Thank you very much. We're going to use for Q&A, we're going to use the chat function today, which is should be at the top of your screen. We will be recording today's session and we will email you a copy of that. And during proceedings today, we'll be doing some short polls, and we'd really appreciate it if we could collect some feedback from you. Thank you very much. So just before I get underway, if I could just ask for cameras and mics to be off. Thank you very much. Just to kick things off, if I've not had the pleasure of your company before, my name is Deborah Young, and I'm the CEO of the RegTech Association. This program we have been running really since the establishment of the association, and I recall about 6 years ago it was standing room only at a room in Stone and Chalk in Sydney with some beanbags and chairs in the room. And since that time, and specifically over the last 3 years, we've had 19,000 people from more than 85 countries attend programs just like this today. And this particular program really helps, it plays a very important role in helping everybody understand RegTech, some of the applications for RegTech. It's always great when we have a regulator come along and give an update on what's actually happening in their space. And we couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for the support of our members and close stakeholders. So I wanted to take this opportunity to thank them very much. And to all of you, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. If I could ask everybody to be cameras and mics off, please. Thank you very much. This particular event today, we took 233 registrations from 19 different countries, and to give you some idea about who's online or who will be downloading the recording, 79 regulated institutions, 80 RegTech companies, and 26 people from government or regulators. So we will now be starting with a short introductory piece from me, and then I'm going to hand over to AUSTRAC, and then following that we are then going to have 3 short case studies from 3 of our RegTech members. But to kick off, I might start with a bit of an industry update. Nathan, if you wouldn't mind moving this slide forward by 1 or 2. Thank you. So I just wanted to kind of share with you a little bit about the association if it's the first time you've joined us. We're a non-profit, and we were established in 2017 as an organisation that really came together to help collaboration between different parts of the ecosystem. And what we try and do in all of our work is to accelerate the adoption of RegTech and to try and create a global centre of excellence. And so what in the work that we do, we bring together government, regulators, regulated entities, professional service firms, and RegTech companies to collaborate, to promote the industry as widely as possible. And the end game is to ensure that we are seeing the uptake of as much RegTech as possible to the organisations that need it. So the 4 key pillars of what we work towards in our strategy are to facilitate connections across the ecosystem to drive commercial outcomes, to educate and showcase to promote the industry, to explore and expand new opportunities in new markets or segments, and finally to encourage and facilitate global investment into the sector. So the programs that we run are really about encouraging engagement. what we have, you can see on the bottom of this slide, there's a whole host of logos there. And these are the organisations across the world that we are holding hands with. And that is to amplify our efforts and to amplify the energy that we are all creating, and to be able to share in this very rich universe. One of the key things which I'll unpack a little bit later is actually our RegTech taxonomy. And that is a risk-based approach on how you as a customer of RegTech can find RegTech more accessible, aligned with the specific area of risk. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. We also have programs that highlight areas of topical interest. And so some of those I'll also talk a little bit about on a later slide. We also run global awards programs across 3 geographical regions, and the next 12 months are going to see us into the UK, into the US, and of course, APAC. We also collect data and disseminate information by way of research reports. I've just talked about the global relationships that we have with our memorandums of understanding with all of the organisations that you can see listed below. We are focused on driving new memberships out of the RegTech sector from across the world. And we encourage institutions to come along and support us by attending these events like today, but also by joining the association, and to strongly support the development of RegTech as a sector. And finally, it's really important to us to develop strong regulatory relationships and evidenced today by having AUSTRAC join us. And if you haven't already seen this, this is the membership map of the association. And if you'd like to download a copy of this, you can do that on the homepage of our website. There's a panel down on the left-hand side, the bottom left-hand side. You can download a copy of this map. I thought I'd just take a moment to actually talk about the RegTech taxonomy for a moment, because this is really quite important and fundamental. If you're an institution or you're a potential buyer of RegTech, imagine that you go to a big conference and there's a big expo of different vendors out in the hall. It's very difficult for you to know as an institution or as a buyer, you know, which one of those vendors is right for you and what suits your needs. And so what we've tried to do is to create an online directory. So first of all, we created a structure which we call the taxonomy, and then we baked that into our online directory. And so what that actually means is that you can approach that directory thinking about the risk that you are trying to solve. And you can see on that slide, they are the risks addressed by RegTech. And then there are many other filters that you can use within the taxonomy on the directory to actually further come up with a more refined set of results. So for example, top of that list is AML CTF, so you might click on that. Then you might be looking for a regulatory reporting solution, or potentially you're looking for something that's both of those, but also written in blockchain. So you'd be able to go to the directory and find precisely what it is you were looking for. And if location is also important to you, you can also put in your preferred location, and the vendors in that space will drop down before your very eyes, and you can click through and then go and learn more about those companies. So the taxonomy is really important and fundamental. We kind of call it our 24/7 shop that's open all the time. So whenever you have the appetite to go and look, it is there for you to use as a tool and as a resource. I mentioned that we also do research. So we collect data from the industry annually. This at the moment has 3 different perspectives. We capture regulatory perspectives, we capture institutional perspectives, and we also capture RegTech perspectives. And we are hoping within the next 12 months to also extend this to include investors And also for the first time, we're going to be asking non-members to contribute to the report as well. If you're on this call, you'll possibly be included in this outreach. And so contributing to this data collection is a really great thing to do for the industry. There's all kinds of interesting benchmarks and all kinds of other things in there that might interest you. So I would encourage you, if we reach out to you, please do contribute to that report. That report, as I just mentioned, has 3 different perspectives in there. And what's on the following slides are some of the top things. Now, I won't go through everything just due to time and that we were a little bit late in starting. But I think there's some really key insights on some of these things. And what we found from a regulatory perspective is that the appetite for RegTech and SupTech for regulators is definitely increasing. But one of the things that we also heard from regulators is the importance of vendors to really ensure that they are bringing a very credible story when they're dealing and speaking to regulators. So the importance of bringing your track record into those conversations to build confidence is very important. Also, what we learned from regulators is that they are very resource constrained and to some degree technology constrained. But one of the things that I can share with you over my time with the RegTech Association, we have found all of the regulators, in particular those in Australia, very accommodating, and all of them have an open door to talk to RegTech companies. Secondly, with the RegTech buyers, and so this usually references the financial institutions, but can also include other buyers of RegTech solutions, is they're really looking for organisational readiness of RegTech companies that approach them. And you can see some of the things listed on that slide there, ensuring that ISO accreditations are in place, that they're cyber ready, that they have a track record, and that they've got a dedicated resource to see some of those early stages of the deployment through. And one of the key things that we've also learned from institutions, the first couple of years we collected the data, we saw some common themes coming through, as you would expect. The things keeping them awake at night were regulatory fines, the difficulty on digital transformation programs, the cost of compliance was rising. But what we have seen for the first time emerge in the last research was this whole idea of that they are very much motivated and being driven by customers. And so that is their customers have much higher expectations of institutions. And these are a motivating factor behind adopting RegTech, simply because it affords greater clarity of information, better data quality, more efficiency, more productivity, and therefore a much higher capability to deliver to those customers. Sorry, now I'm having some issues with moving the slide along. I'm going to do my best. There we are. So it was actually a good story for the last 12 months on investments. And I talked about that at one of the beginning slides about investments into the sector. So 61% of RegTech companies have reported sophisticated investment and sophisticated capital flowing in. So whether that be from high net worth, VC, corporate VC, and private equity. We did see in the post-pandemic environment a bit of a reduction in export opportunities, but on the flip side of that, RegTech's also reported a lot of unexpected new opportunities that have arisen as a result of the pandemic. One of the biggest issues still remains as procurement is still one of the biggest blockers of getting RegTech solutions in a speedy way. But what we have seen over the last few years is this significant reduction in the time taken from first conversation to full deployment. And the research report that you can download shows that that's moved from something like 2 years, 5 years ago, now to an average of 9.3 months. So we are seeing the solutions getting in to where they are needed at a faster pace. I talked a little bit earlier about some of the other things that you will see us talking about over the next couple of months. Generative AI is a very hot topic right now. Cyber, financial crime. We're going to be talking more about government as a buyer. This is a huge growth area for RegTech. Employment compliance is also another big growth area. So that's an area that's not just focused on financial services. That's indeed a sector agnostic range of solutions that can really help with compliance around employment issues. We're going to be talking more about investment. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we will be running programs face-to-face in Sydney, in the UK, and in the US. And here is my fantastic team if you need to reach out to talk about any one or more of those things. So now I'm going to hand you to Stephen Munro from AUSTRAC. Now, I'm sorry, Stephen, because I'm needing to share the screen, I don't actually have your bio in front of me. So could I possibly ask your indulgence and ask you to introduce yourself? I'm so sorry about that.
On behalf of AUSTRAC, I just wanted to thank the RegTech Association for extending their invitation to AUSTRAC for us to join you all here today as part of RegTech Matters. I'm Stephen Munro, I'm one of the managers in AUSTRAC's Industry Education and Outreach team. I've been with AUSTRAC for 15 years now. I've worked across 3 key areas, which is education, supervision, and also the international programs. I'm currently working with education again, enjoying it. I hold a master's degree in AML, a international degree in AML with the International Compliance Association as well. So with that, without any further ado, I'll ask Nathan to jump onto the first slide, please.
Well, actually, you're asking Deborah because I'm currently going to be an octopus. I am having a few issues, so just bear with me.
Certainly.
Sorry. We normally have 3 people running these events, and because of the technical difficulties, I'm now currently doing everything. There we go.
Excellent. You may have heard recently about the proposed reforms to Australia's AML-CTF regime. So the proposed reforms include extending the existing AML-CTF legislation to capture additional tranche 2 entities. These groupings include lawyers, accountants, trust and company service providers, real estate agents, and dealers in precious metals and stones. The reform itself, it also aims to modernise and clarify Australia's existing regime in line with international standards and international best practice. It aims to reduce complexity and regulatory burden for industry, ensure the regime remains fit for purpose, and also harden Australian businesses and against exploitation by serious and organised criminals. A public consultation on the regime and the reform of it has commenced. The government has invited industry to make submissions on the proposed reforms set out in the first of 2 consultation papers. They're published on the Attorney General's website, and submissions have now closed for the first paper, but the second paper will be coming out within a few months. Government are now reviewing submissions on the first paper, and insights gained from this will be critical in helping to shape these reforms and ensuring our AML-CTF regime continues to protect Australia's financial system. The reforms will also consider findings from the Financial Action Task Force's upcoming mutual evaluation of Australia, and also the statutory review of the Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing Act. Part 1 of the consultation process, It proposes reforms that will simplify and modernise the operation of Australia's AML-CTF regime. And part 2 of the consultation, it proposes extending the AML-CTF regime to the tranche 2 entities that I mentioned earlier. The gap in coverage of the tranche 2 entities creates an enhanced risk of criminal exploitation of Australia's financial system. The inclusion of these industries in the AML-CTF regime would close that gap and also strengthen the integrity of our regime. Out of more than 200 jurisdictions worldwide, Australia is now one of only 5, alongside China, Haiti, Madagascar, and the United States, that do not regulate these tranche 2 entities. This important work is being led by the Attorney General's Department with support from AUSTRAC. So what does that mean for RegTechs? It means a lot of opportunity on assisting our newer regulated population. Many of these entities will be new to AML-CTF regulation and are predominantly small businesses. It's time to start thinking about what solutions you can put in place for these entities. AUSTRAC continues to work very closely with the RegTech Association, and we also want to support our reporting entities and RegTechs in building solutions that assist them to fulfil their AML-CTF obligations. Deborah, if we could jump to the next slide. As part of this, if we jump one back, please. There, thank you. As part of this, we would like to take this opportunity to outline AUSTRAC's expectations of RegTechs when building solutions for our reporting entities. These include demonstrating an understanding of Australia's AML-CTF framework, understanding the products and services provided to clients, as well as the money laundering and terrorism financing risks and operational challenges your clients face. Understanding the gaps your client may have in meeting the AML-CTF obligations, being able to clearly explain your solution to the client, including its limitations and the extent to which it supports them to meet their AML-CTF obligations. Ensure your client understands which obligation your solution addresses, and ensuring your solution, if originally developed for other jurisdictions other than Australia, meets the requirements of Australia's AML-CTF framework. Ensuring your client has ongoing support to implement your solution, and keeping up to date with relevant AUSTRAC information, industry trends, and legislative changes. Deborah, I'll jump to the next slide. So how does AUSTRAC engage with RegTechs currently? You may all know about AUSTRAC's RegTech engagement sessions. They're designed to give RegTechs an opportunity to engage with AUSTRAC. Sessions are one-on-one and run for 45 minutes. And during these sessions, you can discuss or demonstrate your solution and ask further questions to further your understanding of the legislation and requirements. And all sessions are available through Microsoft Teams. Please note, these sessions, they're not an opportunity to market or gain endorsement from AUSTRAC around a product. Any advice that AUSTRAC gives is only general in nature. To book an AUSTRAC RegTech engagement session, email regtech@austrac.gov.au or jump on our RegTech page on the AUSTRAC website. And from that, you'll be able to gain available appointments. And Deborah, if we jump to the last slide there. The final thing we wanted to discuss today is the upcoming RegTech Symposium 2023. AUSTRAC, in partnership with the RegTech Association, will be hosting an event for RegTechs in late October this year. This will be a free in-person event held in Sydney, and we're planning a second in-person event in Melbourne for next year. The objective of the RegTech Symposium is to allow RegTechs to hear from AUSTRAC, but also hear from our reporting entities, our law enforcement and regulatory partners on the AML-CTF obligations, and also allow them the opportunity to provide solutions to our reporting entities to assist them in complying with the obligations. This symposium will have a specific focus on transaction monitoring programs and quality reporting. We're working through the finer details of the event, and more information will be released over the coming weeks. The event will incorporate speakers from AUSTRAC, industry, law enforcement, and regulatory partners to discuss transaction monitoring programs, quality reporting, and the role of a third-party provider such as RegTechs. We will also discuss the importance of governance, oversight and assurance, and also financial intelligence and its role in law enforcement outcomes. To register your interest in attending, scan the QR code we've got on the screen and complete the short form that we've set up. So they're the things we wanted to cover off today in the session. Thank you all for your time, and I'll now open it up for any questions.
Thanks very much, Stephen. Don't be alarmed if you miss the QR code, because that will also be sent out to you in the post-event email, and it will be on the recording in case you need to pick it up again. So I'm delighted now to invite Anthony Quinn from Arctic Intelligence. Anthony, would you mind just doing a brief introduction of yourself? And I will, if I can get this tech working, here we go, and I will be moving the slides. There we go.
Thanks, Deb, and thanks to the RegTech Association for having me along today, and thanks for everyone that's tuned in. So I'm Anthony Quinn. I'm the founder and the CEO of Arctic Intelligence. Next slide, Deb, if you don't mind. So Arctic Intelligence is a regulatory technology firm. It's got a few on. Yeah, so we're a RegTech technology firm that specialises in financial crime risk assessment technologies. We were founded in 2015, and we've helped hundreds of clients in over 20 industry sectors and 17 countries help improve their financial crime risk assessments. We have two technology platforms, which I'll go into a bit later. One is designed primarily for small to mid-sized businesses to conduct money laundering and terrorism financing risk assessments, and the other is aimed at larger, more complex organisations that are doing financial crime and non-financial crime risk assessments. Next slide, please. So AML Accelerate is a product that's designed purely for money laundering and terrorism financing risk assessments, and for organisations that are looking to develop AML policies and procedures in line with local regulatory guidance. It's primarily designed for small to mid-sized businesses. I've said the risk assessment within this platform has essentially been tailored to 30 different industry sectors, and we've tailored content in there to over 30 countries. Next slide, please, Deb. The risk assessment platform is essentially also a cloud-based technology. We describe it as a risk domain agnostic platform. And what I mean by that is that we have a number of different risk and compliance and control libraries for a range of financial crime and non-financial crime topics. And it's a very configurable platform. It allows organisations to configure the methodology, configure risk models, add weights, scores, different answer sets and thresholds. And it's primarily used by organisations that are looking to digitise their financial crime risk assessments, moving away from spreadsheets, and for more advanced organisations that have gone beyond digitisation into automation through data-driven approaches. Next slide, please, Deb. I put this slide in there mainly because every time I speak to somebody, they think that what we do is quite niche, but it's very far from niche. There's 200 FATF member countries and 30 industry sectors that the AML regulations apply to. Broadly, they're financial institutions as well as gaming and wagering firms, designated non-financial services sectors, and high-value goods dealers. And obviously, Australia is one of the last to implement that, so hopefully that will change. Next slide, please. In terms of some of the countries we serve, in some of our platforms, we've localised the content to over 30 countries, and we're planning to launch another 30 over the next coming months. Next slide, please, Deb. In terms of our companies that we've helped over 300 different companies across a range of different regions. We've got a very diverse customer mix, from large financial institutions right the way down to small and mid-sized businesses in a range of industry sectors. Next slide, please. So in terms of a couple of case studies, the first case study is with Suncorp, who've been a customer of Arctic's probably for about four and a half years. They initially approached us as they were looking to digitise their enterprise AML risk assessment away from a spreadsheet-based approach. And now they use the risk assessment platform essentially to run risk assessments for AML, but also a range of other financial crime risk assessment topics. Next slide, please, Deb. And the second case study I wanted to just highlight was really Cash Converters, who are an AML Accelerate customer. And again, they were looking to digitise their risk assessment platform for money laundering using the platform. Next slide, please, Deb. Thanks for listening. There's a couple of links in there to some videos. If anybody wants any further information, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks.
Thanks, Anthony. And that was really great that you were a little bit under time as well, because I'm trying to time everybody and move the slides all at once. Thanks very much.
Appreciate that. No problem. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So next we have Thomas Duro from FeedsEye. Welcome, Thomas.
So hi everyone, my name is Tomas and I'm the data science lead for FeedsEye in APAC. FeedsEye is a global company. We have clients in all continents except Africa, and we deliver, or our focus is delivering AI solutions to stop fraud and mitigate risk for financial institutions. And another one of our big focuses is to empower the financial institutions to maintain and manage these solutions autonomously. Our biggest client base are retail banks. Our clients range from tier 1 banks to virtual banks. My role at FeedsEye is to ensure that all our clients in Asia Pacific have the right fraud strategy and risk mitigation strategy in place. We have quite a few clients in Australia, and we have an office in Sydney. And so that gives you kind of a broad perspective of what FeedsEye is. Last year, just to promote last year's event, we actually had Sean Ryan, the GM for APAC for FeedsEye, who I believe is a friend of many here. He presented a case study on one cloud platform to manage financial crime. I really encourage taking a look at last year's session. But today I'll focus on the AML space, what we are doing in this space and how we are using AI and machine learning. So if we go to the next slide, Deborah. As I said, we are an AI first company, but in the AML space, and as we've discussed today, compliance and regulation has slowed down a bit innovation over the years. However, that's starting to change a bit. We are seeing a shift in different geographies. We are seeing regulation starting to catch up with today's reality and the technologies we have. For example, on the slide, we have a statement from the Financial Action Task Force, which is the global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog, where it claims that AI and machine learning can help better identify risks and monitor suspicious activity. And we are actually seeing that at FeedsEye. So Deborah, if you can go to the next slide, I'll go right into a customer story and how we've used AI and what kind of results we have achieved. So in a traditional AML solution, you have something like what's here on the slide. Transactions come in, they are evaluated by certain rules and scenarios that generates alerts for accounts and customers, and those are reviewed in a case manager. And the analysts don't really know what's the most priority alerts, and they kind of look at all the alerts as a bag of alerts. Although these systems are compliant and explainable, they are very human intensive and they generate significant false positive rates. So to address this issue, in the next slide, if you can change, Deborah, we propose a machine learning model to triage alerts. So this model would be positioned after the rules. If an alert is generated, that alert goes through the model. The model produces a score, and that score is used to then prioritize later on the alerts. So you can get some gains in your operations team by doing this. In this client, we specified 3 priority risks queues. So high risk queue, medium risk queue, and low priority or low risk queue. In the high risk queue, you are going to have all the alerts that had a high score. So these are riskier alerts. And so you can give these alerts for the senior analysts you have in your financial institution to review them appropriately. Then we have a medium priority queue and a low priority queue. In this low priority queue, you are going to have most of the alerts here are going to be false positives. So you can, in a way, deprioritize these and start with high priority, then medium priority, and so on. Another very important point on this slide is the feedback loop. The only way for this to work is if we have the right data. And for that, we need to have as accurate as possible suspicious activity labels from the analyst team, from the institution. So it's very important that we keep good track of everything that gets escalated and gets identified as suspicious activity. If we go to the next slide, I have some numbers on what we've actually achieved with this client to give you a more concrete picture of what we can do. So in the first row, you can see baseline. So that's what happens if you don't have a prioritization model. So in this case, you have 100% of the alerts generated that need to be reviewed, and you cannot really say which ones you should review first. You can review them in, for example, in order that they are generated. But if we have a model, we can then split the alerts into different queues. And let's say, for example, let's start with the high priority queue. In this case, we only have about 20% of the total alerts generated placed in this queue, but 90% of these alerts are actually true positives. So you have a strong confidence that these high priority alerts are suspicious. Mid priority queue doesn't have as high precision, percentage of suspicious alerts, but it's still very good. You still have about 1 in 2 alerts that are suspicious. And then you have a lot of gains, efficiency gains on the low priority queue, where you have about 99% of false positives and a third of the volume of alerts. Just to close my presentation, Deborah, if you can go to the next slide. So what do we get from this kind of machine learning driven solution? We get to improve outcomes, as we've seen. We reduce the time we spend on false positives, and that way we have more confidence that we are putting the right resources in the suspicious activity and filing reports there. And we improve compliance by focusing time and resources on the actual suspicious activity. And that's it from me. In the next slide, you have my contacts. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions.
That's great. Thank you so much, Tomasz. And if I could just say to the presenters, if you'd like to put any of your links actually into the chat so that people can grab them straight away, please feel free to do that. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to welcome Eric Frost from Simple KYC. Eric, I'm going to be moving your slides. There we are.
Hello. Hey, thanks, Deborah. Can you hear me, Deborah?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Excellent. Excellent. So hi, everyone. I'm a founder of one of the founders of Simple KYC. For those of you who don't know us, we're a RegTech solution that does due diligence, helps with doing due diligence on customers. We're also a proud founder of the RegTech Association, along with Anthony from RegTech. So yeah, a little bit of an intro. Maybe Deborah, you could go to the next page. A little bit of an intro on us. As mentioned, we're a SaaS solution that helps with customer due diligence. We're probably most well known for helping out with entities that are businesses, but we do cover the full array of different customer types. So why do due diligence on customers? Well, one, it's regulated, but two, it's extremely important to understand who the customer is, because you can't do risk assessment, transaction monitoring appropriately, or really anything else downstream unless you know who your customer is, have the necessary attributes and data points and those are valid and correct, and you keep those up to date throughout the life cycle. So our core capability essentially is data aggregation. We have rule logic, decision-making capability, along with artificial intelligence or natural language processing capabilities to deal with unstructured data. Our customers range from, similar to the other RegTechs, very much anything from small financial advisory, fintechs, emerging fintechs, up to the largest banks. So very much, because this is a SaaS solution, it easily deploys to all types of customers. In terms of how we're used for different use cases, we really started out with onboarding. That's at the time when we started, that was the theme, and really our vision was to, and why we started the business was onboarding just took excessively long, especially for business customers. And that was the problem we wanted to solve for. But over the years, our customers, especially the bigger end of town, has moved into more lifecycle management. We've really sort of expanded to helping from onboarding all the way through the life cycle. We've been pulled in by customers to also help with enhanced risk due diligence on their high-risk population, and we're also used for third-party or vendor due diligence. We have big aspirations. We always are getting asked by customers to do more things, and anticipate that in the near future we'll expand into helping out with ESG and certain types of credit risk, which is really my background. Is before I started Simple KYC is really all around credit risk. So lots of different use cases that our core capabilities provide. So Deborah, would you mind going to the next page? So I'm going to walk through 3 case studies with 3 awesome customers, and this should really bring to light exactly what we do. I haven't provided the brand names deliberately, so I will just speak generically about these. The first one is a tier 1 bank that we helped solve for onboarding their customers digitally before us, and their business banking customers. Before us, it was very much, they had a digital form. You fill it out. Often you had to end up in the branch. You go into the branch, that'll take you an hour. You might have to go back to the branch. There's a lot of back and forth. Other directors or officers or ultimate beneficial owners might have to come to the branch. All up, it's same problem we see around the world with most banks. Very much a manual process requiring a lot of time by back office employees, a lot of back and forth with the customers, high drop-off rates, and also not necessarily the best customer experience given how many interactions they might have to have with their bank. So this is a challenge when we started the business that we wanted to solve for, and we have been able to solve for with the largest of institutions. Our solution, really, when we're integrated with a digital onboarding solution, we're able to bring all that data up front, pre-fill applications, and bring a lot of knowing who that customer is right up front, so that the interaction with the customer, that 12-day process, can be done during a digital form live. And by the end of it, aiming for straight-through processing to get a real-time decision whether the customer meets the policy requirements or not. The customer experience is fantastic. It's all done digitally, and it can all be done in seven minutes when it's done with a solution like ours, done in conjunction with our customers, enabling the right operating models and systems in the back end. The next page, please. The second case study is really around refreshing customers. So you onboard the customer. How do you bring them back to life? Because the reality is that as that customer's information changes, people move addresses, companies have director changes, they have shareholder changes, lots of different things change during the life of the customer. The reality is banks also data is dispersed. It might be in 25 different systems. They may lose track, as well as policy changes, or many customers acquired by a bank might have been before the regulation even existed. So we're able to help our customers bring back that information and get them up to policy by absorbing the data that our customers have on file, helping verify that against third parties, running it against decision logic to make sure that the policy is met, and then where there are discrepancies or issues, helping digitally outreach to the customer to collect the latest information or documents that are needed to fulfill on that. And this is very much a common theme that we see around the world, especially in Australia at the current moment around doing that. And then the future of this is, once you've got your book up to speed, how do you enable that ongoing and what many might call perpetual KYC, so that you have ongoing due diligence to constantly be proactive about knowing when those changes with the customer occur and getting them into the system for downstream. And the last case study is around enhanced due diligence with the company in the gaming sector. We've been able to really reduce the amount of average handling time that they have by helping out with absorbing a lot of external data, helping them risk profile and do a lot of enhanced due diligence around their customer base. This is typically a very intensive process that involves gathering a lot of information and doing a lot of research around customers. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Be very happy to answer anything you might have. Thanks, Deborah.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Eric. That was great. Thank you. So, you know, what occurs to me after listening to those fantastic presentations this afternoon is how far the industry has evolved and come over what is a reasonably short period of time. When we set out to achieve this, you know, almost 6 years ago, it seemed inconceivable that, you know, we would have a regulator and we would have RegTechs and we would have institutions sitting all as part of it, well, let alone an online call, but actually all coming together to collaborate, to really lean in, to see the opportunity that is RegTech. And it's so fantastic to see. I'd like to thank our colleagues from AUSTRAC for coming along and sharing what they are doing, but also how they are embracing RegTech. And we're very excited about the symposium that will be held in October, date to be confirmed. So please don't forget to express your interest. And as I said, the QR code will be shared with you as part of the post-event email. Some of you may see on the screen right now a poll. We'd really appreciate if you could fill that poll in. I will apologise in advance for those of you who had to bear with us as we had some technical difficulties, but sometimes what will go wrong goes wrong, and we just need to do the best that we can. So hopefully it hasn't been too painful dealing with me this afternoon. But what's really exciting is we've got a lot of really great things coming up that I wanted to quickly share with you. 29th of August, Alison and Nathan will both be in Melbourne. If you'd like to catch up with them, we're running an event at Stone and Chalk. If you're a member of the association, you'll be able to go onto the website and find that and register. If not, please do send us an email at members@regtechglobal.org and we can accommodate you. And also, Alison and Nathan will both be at FinTech Australia's Intersect Festival in Melbourne. So if you're going to be around for that, please do try and connect with them. On the 20th of September, I will be in Singapore and I'm doing a member meetup there. So please reach out if you'd like to come along. The 28th of September, I'll be in London and we'll be doing a similar thing. A date to be confirmed on that, but please do contact us if you would like an invite to that. And then on the 28th of September, we will have one of our RegTech Edge No Borders programs running on regulatory and compliance solutions. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a full global program of activities coming up, which we will launch as we go. So if you're on our mailing list, you will receive those things as they come to life. So finally, as we wrap up, thank you very much to all of our speakers today, Stephen, Thomas, Anthony, and Eric. Thank you very much for bearing with us through the technical issues. And I will formally call the session to a close now, and you can look forward to receiving the recording tomorrow if you missed any of what we had to say today. So thank you very much. Thanks very much, Stephen. Appreciate that.